Swamp Rebellion at the conclusion of the return of RattlesnakeDre. Stay tuned after the show to hear the song inspired by RattlesnakeDre.
There's a couple of really cool stories that of people finding treasure recently. The first one I'm gonna touch on was found in 2020, and this was a guy. His name was Forrest Finn. He's 87 years old. He was a former military. He turned into an antique dealer. A lot of people said he did some shady shit. Like he would go to these different countries and he would go to like Native American areas and just basically Indiana Jones it, running, smash and grab kind of thing. And he ended up building.
Hey, look over there. Let me take your sacred rocks.
Well, this guy actually he had a mummified hawk from King Tut's burial chamber. Yeah, that's how legit this guy is. Like he's super. And he also had sitting bull's peace pipe.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he had like super legit shit, super wealthy. Well, the dude ends up catching like a couple of different cancers, which a lot of people said, well, that's what you get for going to rob Native American burial grounds and
the bad juju.
Yeah, King Tut's.
A lot of people do believe in the curses of the dead.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to touch on a couple things that are going to blow your mind in a little bit about it. So that'll keep people suspense and they'll continue to listen.
Yeah. It doesn't work that way on this show.
Yeah, they're just like, enough, he said, Fester Bean. So in 2010, he takes a lot of his treasure, like handfuls of gold coins, gold nuggets, priceless artifacts, and puts them all in a 10 by 10 brass or bronze chest and buries it on like the West Coast somewhere. So for years, he put out a couple books with some poems trying to give people clues about where they could find it, and people thought he was full of shit. 2020 rolls around, even though it was a shitty year. A medical student finds it, and nobody believed them until they posted pictures about it.
What the fuck? So,
and they had, I think it was like a couple $1 million worth of...
Did he find it on accident?
No, he was looking for it. Because, and now, not only does he have all that treasure, because like I've seen pictures of it, you can go look at that Forrest Finn treasure.
If you just find treasure, it's legal for you to keep it?
No. And that's where it's really bad, is that in the state of Louisiana, if you find treasure, they get to take like 85% of it. Also, there's a law saying that you find anything that's over 300 years old, I'm waving the thing that I have that's old, they automatically have ownership of it.
What the
Come and get it.
Because it's considered a historical artifact, and then you should have never touched it. Even if it's on your property, you're not supposed to touch it.
That's fucking shit, though. Like, right? Why does that give you the state the right to do that? I understand preservation side, but if something's that valuable and you took your time and you used your skill to find it, you should have every right to that, in my opinion.
Or if you just stumbled upon it.
Or killed someone for it.
That's old America. That's definitely not America these days.
Yeah.
Old America, you just run out there and start building a house, and that was your land. And if you...
It's mine.
Yeah, whoever came along, if you killed them first, it's still yours. But if they killed you, they got a brand new ranch, your old lady, and your horses.
I guess it's not so bad.
Yeah. But that's the most recent huge treasure.
And where was it?
It was in New Mexico, I think.
Okay.
But if you look up Forrest Finn, you can read the whole article.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out because that's wild.
Yeah, and it's definitely.
So he kept it all though.
Yeah, the only thing he said, the guy Forrest Finn that buried the box said, whoever finds it, there's a Native American bracelet that he wanted back. And when you bring him that bracelet, he releases the ownership of all of that to that person. And it's valued anywhere from $1 to $5 million worth of stuff. And the guy brought it back, threw the box on the table. They opened it, looked at it. He told them the stories about it, gave him back his little bracelet. But they're keeping everything hush-hush because I think they're going to do a movie or an interview or a documentary about it.
Something's going to be reported about it.
Right. That's awesome.
That's super cool, though. That's a recent...
I do remember the guy putting out the, like the ad or whatever saying,
to go find it or
Yeah.
whatever. I remember them talking about that.
I think it's called The Thrill of the Hunt. That's the book
that was
or
it.
something.
Mm-hmm.
But sad thing is, Forrest Fenn died like a couple months after the guy found it.
Oh, wow.
Like in 2020. Like maybe 2 or
That
3
bracelet
months.
killed him.
You think it lifted the curse, or?
Yeah, maybe so. Or maybe he was, that's what's crazy about all this stuff. We can joke around about saying, oh, it's haunted and this and that, but there's so many things.
Oh, there's
in there.
definitely spiritual attachment to it all.
Right.
I agree.
And maybe now that his treasure was found, he was eliminated from the story or released from the story. But it was just ironic that the guy brings it to him, and then a couple months later.
Or now
That just goes to show how his life, and that goes for anyone, how you don't know how your life spiritually can be intertwined with anything, right? And it could be that his soul was attached to those inanimate objects, and was finally just said, "Hey, look, your chapter's done."
And I do have another story about spiritual objects that I'll go ahead and talk to you about. So, okay, where my father-in-law lives at, this is going to blow your mind. The movie Poltergeist,
Yes.
they dig a pool in the yard and there's bodies. That actually happened. Right there in La Rose. They have pictures of it. They gave all the bodies to LSU. I swear to God.
What?
In my father-in-law's backyard, they went to dig a pool, and when they dug up, they broke some caskets, and they had bones and skulls falling out. And they had to call LSU to come and take all the bones and because there's a graveyard there. So LSU did some ground penetrating sonar stuff,
Scanning it, yeah.
and there's more bodies. So when you go to his house, the pool is like all the way to the right of his house. That's because there's more bodies still there. And LSU said, you are no longer allowed. Don't even bury trees right here. Just don't dig in the ground.
Because there's piles of bodies here.
Yeah.
I wish we knew who they were.
They have pictures of them somewhere. I'm going to get the pictures and I'll get it to you guys.
Yeah. That's insane.
And it
crazy.
sounds like a crazy story, but
But a similar thing happened in Homa a couple of years ago. I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember that, on Hollywood Road in that big field.
Oh, yeah.
They started digging, and they're like, oh, here's a body. Oh, here's another body. And the next thing you know, it's like in the 60s.
Fuck. That's nuts.
and that's what Poltergeist is based off of a
Right.
true story of them digging up.
When did that happen?
My father-in-law was a young boy, and he's like 45 now. So
Okay.
this was about, I don't know,
Oh, wow.
30 years ago.
Damn, man.
So many people under the ground, man.
That's not even the crazy part of the story. Buckle up, Buttercup. So one day, I was always attracted to the story, so I'd go in the backyard, and my father-in-law would come with me because, he's like-minded. We both like to treasure stuff, and he's like, dude, when they dug a little tiny drainage ditch between the properties, and he's like, there's all kind of broken pottery. Sometimes that washes out, and they'd find old bottles because there was a church on I guess the west side of the property, and then the graveyard was on the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I'm going and I see a couple little pieces of pottery, and I'm digging them up, and all of a sudden I see a small, tiny little piece of metal. So I go to flick it out the ground with my finger, and I realize it's tarnished like silver. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, I had enough sense in my head. I ran, grabbed my phone, got my little brother-in-law, say, dude, just come, hold my phone, make sure it's recording. I pull it out of the ground. It's a crucifix, silver crucifix, attached to about 4 or 5 blue beads.
Mm-hmm.
I keep digging more and more beads. It was a crucifix that was busted into like 100 pieces.
Yeah.
Rosary, sorry.
You found a rosary.
So I found the rosary, so I started sifting through the dirt like minute. It was like I was on CSI or something. I was able to find maybe about half the beads, and I was able to piece the rosary back together, but it's missing about 20 or 30 beads.
Mm-hmm.
But that object was either buried in that graveyard with someone, or it was buried as a long time ago they used to bury religious objects and say a prayer, that way it would come true. Because I've also metal detected at another site where there was an old church. It was no longer there. It got wiped out a long time ago. And a friend of mine found 2 or 3 religious medallions. And that was the story that we were told, was that people would go and bury these in hopes that a loved one was sick or a loved one had passed on and you wish them, So I felt bad. I'm like, oh my God, I have this. But it was on the side of a ditch, and these beads, the reason why most of them are missing, because they were washed into the ditch and then washed away. So I said, I'm going to piece it back together. I'm going to put it on display, and I'm going to give it like homage,
Yeah.
So since I've done that, I haven't felt anything really creepy at my house, because I have so much creepy crap at my house. That kind of like calmed it down.
You got a little protection.
A little. Until recently, there's a couple things that's been happening,
Oh, yeah?
Because the last time I had talked about it, my wife, she kind of sees and feels things.
Right.
And I never had an experience before I met her, ever. And I had told a story about one time we were holding hands, and I was driving in the next street, and I tapped my brakes because something like flew across my windshield. I mean, it wasn't like a bird. It was like a full, basically, apparition. And I tapped my brakes, and she looked at me, and she was like, what? I was like, what the fuck was that? And she's like, you saw that? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, no. And I think that's what it was. Either...
Oh, no. Fuck.
From me meeting her, I guess I feel it now, or maybe we were holding hands and
It's true.
all of a sudden now.
Absolutely. I completely understand that. I'm very similar like that, like where I would have been with someone who is very sensitive to, the supernatural like that. And I'm not normally, but when I was around them, plain as day occur. And it was hard for me to believe because, again, like you had never had an experience like that, but you're not going to deny.
All it takes is that first time, though.
Yeah.
You get your cherry popped one of those, and you're
Straight
there.
up, broad daylight. It was definitely not a puff of smoke. It was something moving.
Yeah.
It was like undulating, like basically a person walking with a shirt, but it was just the shirt.
So what's been going on recently that you're saying that?
There's just a couple of things in my house that just... at the corner of your eye, or
Is that weird feeling when you get in certain places and shit like that?
Yeah, but it was never bad until like recently, like a couple things. Like I walked to the back of my house and my bedroom's on one side and my relic room's on the other, and when I turned the corner I heard like a growl, and I'm like, okay, what the hell was that?
You know what it is? It's them literally telling you, RattlesnakeDre, you're not telling our stories anymore. We miss you.
Get your ass back in the field.
Dig up the rest of our shit.
Do your job,
Maybe,
bitch.
and listen, that might be honestly the truth, because with all these different objects that I bring and I talk about, their stories getting told.
You're the vessel, homie.
When you look at the purpose of life, when you die, I can't take any of this with me. The only thing that's left is your stories. So I would think in the afterlife, the last thing you want to hear is your name not being said ever again. And that's the true meaning to like what I'm doing, because I want people to talk about me 100 years from now.
About what your quest was.
Right.
Not so much just you as a person.
No. And I wanted to inspire other people to be, because, people inspired me, and that's them just living vicariously through me and passing it.
So they literally might be pissed at you for not, for taking some time off, man.
Or whatever it is. It's, I don't know, it's kind of creepy.
Spider-Man said it best, with great power comes great responsibility.
There you go.
Uncle Peter Parker's dad.
But I'd like to get your opinion, like if y'all come to my house and you walk, because it's crazy to hold one of these objects in your hand, but imagine walking into a room completely filled.
Full of it. Yeah, I want to.
With boxes and, shelves.
A treasure trove, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, man, that sounds like the best outing.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Especially since you live right next to the Cajun Twist.
And we're going to show up in a heliboat.
That's roast beef po' boys.
Hey, buddy.
So there is one treasure story which has been my favorite since I've been a child. My dad has read books to me about it. I've done plenty of research. There's documentaries if you want to go watch them. They got a bunch that are free on YouTube. And it's basically one of the biggest treasure ships and treasure finds that they've ever had in history. And it was a Spanish ship called the Atocha. And this ship sank in 1622. So this was a long, long time ago. Like the coin I have is from 1807. This is 1622. This ship, it was in a fleet of 28 ships, and they circled the Gulf of Mexico picking up coins and gold, and they were Spanish ships, and they had conquered all of South Mexico and stuff. So that was all Spain had, conquistadors that came in, and they were taking all the silver out of these places. And this was like the most silver the world. These are the biggest silver mines in the world. Still today, they're pulling silver out of there. So these ships were sent by Spain, came down into Mexico, picked up God knows how much silver. Well, supposedly on the boat there was 1,000 silver bars, but these weren't normal silver bars. These were bigger than a loaf of bread. Jeez. Like they would put, the way they pulled them up whenever they found them, they put one in a Walmart grocery basket, because they had no way of, they were trying to get them off the ground as quickly as they could.
Right.
But so there was a fleet of ships. There was 28 of them. They went and they scooped up all of this treasure. They were bringing it back to Spain. Some of the stuff was actually, some of the treasure that they had were gold crosses the size of my hand. They had emeralds inlaid in them, and they were on giant gold necklaces that were like as thick as your finger. And these were meant for the Pope in Spain. And this is what he would wear whenever they would do their Pope stuff.
Yeah.
So these ships...
Blinged out for my popely duties.
Right. So...
With spinners.
Yeah. So they acquired all this treasure. They get to Havana, Cuba. They load up. There's royalty on the boat. There's high clergymen from the Catholic religion. And there's several extremely rich families that take all of their wealth to go back to Spain. So they set sail from South America, and they're going to go to Spain. But back then, when they would sail, they would follow the coastline. They would never just shoot across unless they were shooting back across the Pacific or Atlantic, depending on where they're going. Because if you want to sail next to shore, just in case something bad happens, you can get to shore.
Right.
So these ships passed all along the Yucatan, came all the way up to Mexico, passed right through Louisiana, past Mississippi, and then from Florida, they were going to take the long trip to Spain. So a hurricane passes the morning they leave. 28 ships leave. Only 8 make it out. I'm sorry. 20 ships make it out, but 8 were lost.
Even still.
3 of the ships that were lost had all the treasure on
Were
it.
loaded down.
Loaded to the max. Fuck. Loaded. And that's where these numbers that I was telling you, they had 1,000 silver bars, hundreds of pounds of gold coins. There was all this immaculate jewelry meant for the Pope, like giant. You can go and Google some of the. That's where the ring that has the saint ashes underneath it, all on here. Plus, they found, when they ended up finding the ship, they found 3 pounds of raw, uncut emeralds. Recently, someone found a piece of glass on Key West Beach. This was like last year. They found a piece of glass and they brought it to one of their friends to see, and he's like, "That's not glass. That's an emerald." And it was worth like $90 million because it was the size of their fist.
Oh my God.
So
we're never that lucky, bro. Never.
No, none of us. So the 3 ships were the Rosa, the Santa Margarita, and the Atocha. Those are the 3 ships that were filled with treasure. They all wrecked. The mother lode was on the Atocha. That's where they had the silver bars that were stacked 5 feet high and 40 foot long. Silver bars that were bigger than a loaf of bread. And you can go to Key West because there's a museum for the Male Fisher Museum, and you could see them. They're stacked up behind glass, and you can actually reach your hand into one of the cases and hold a gold bar that comes off the ship.
Wow.
At the Male Fisher Museum in Key West.
I'm gonna go steal it.
When was that recovered?
That was recovered in 1985 on July 20th. So I was like 13 days old.
That's insane. And that just goes to show you there's absolutely still treasure to be found.
Yeah, this was a total of $600 million worth of treasure has been pulled out so far.
He says from the 1600s, right?
Yeah, 1622 it wrecked. And they're still pulling treasure out today.
Yeah.
Because it's been scattered over a large area, and there's 3 different ships. And I'm almost positive they still have tours where if you go and you pay like $20,000, you can go underwater with scuba gear and
go scope it out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you find something, you get to keep it.
Oh, what a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
if you know when you're 20 grand in the fucking hole, that's a gamble.
Yeah. Yeah, you better find some good shit.
All right.
So the way the ship wrecked was the hurricane, as soon as they left the coast of Florida, the hurricane hit. So they were trying to turn back, but the tip of Florida has reefs all around it. And the wind and the rain was so bad, they kept trying to drop anchors. But in the end, they slammed into a reef, and it was loaded to the gill with gold. So it went down instantly, like,
yeah,
just like a metal.
Straight through it.
So everybody died on board except 5 people. 5 people survived. And they were able to swim to shore. And the only reason why they survived was because one of the sailors on the boat had tied himself to the mast, and those other 5 people went and tied themselves. And when the boat broke off, that was the only thing. The ship went to the bottom of the mast, floated up, and they were able to get away.
Wow.
So Mel Fisher, when he first started, he actually pioneered the SCUBA company. He didn't invent it, but he was one of like the founders. Mm-hmm. So he had heard stories through diving about the treasure ship, and he's actually found gold coins and silver coins by diving before. So one day he was really getting into the Atocha shipwreck, and he actually found one of the anchors for he believed the Atocha. So he got a company together, a bunch of people put money into him, and he had his own company searching for the treasure. And one day they find these little black blobs on the ground, and when they brought them up, they found out that they were silver coins like this. Like the black tarnish in between the lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the same black tarnish that was on those coins, but underwater they'll make clumps. So they found the anchor, then they found silver coins. Then one day, one of his divers comes up holding a gold chain that's like 6 foot long. A couple of weeks later, they end up finding, I think it was like 9 cannons that were off the ship. So it was his son named Dirk that had found the cannons, because he had 2 sons, Dirk and Kane, and they were like the bosses on the boats. Well, a couple weeks after they found the cannon, Dirk, his wife Angel, and another guy named Rick, that was a diving partner of Mel Fisher, their pump on their boat malfunctioned, and the boat sank, and they all died.
Oh my God.
So Mel Fisher's son, his daughter-in-law, and one of his best mates died. And that was weeks after they found the cannons and were notified, like, this is legit, this is the Atocha, you're about to be a billionaire.
Fuck.
And then his son, his daughter-in-law, and one of his best friends die. So that goes to show you, if you think there's curses attached to these,
absolutely,
this might be some of the prices you pay for it.
Yeah, it's not definitive proof, but it's enough to make me believe.
Right. So they started finding this treasure, and there was like almost like a, I think it's 20 or 30 year gap between when they started to when they found everything. So when they found the cannons, it was like breadcrumbs. They kept finding more and more small pieces of treasure. And 10 years to the day of losing his son and his daughter-in-law and his friend, his other son, Kane, swimming in the water, found the mountain of silver bars. 10 years to the day. You could look it up. You could.
Yeah.
So, another crazy point that I wanted to make, that I found this out by doing research. They had the 3 people, his son, his daughter-in-law, and his boatmate, all died. There was a National Geographic camera guy. He got sucked into the prop of one of the boats and got killed.
That's a shit way to die, man.
Yeah,
God damn.
very, very bad.
That's
and
some
then
Final Destination shit.
there was another diver that just disappeared. He went down one day and never came back.
up.
And they don't know what happened to him.
That's some haunted ass
Never
shit.
found his body. So the Atocha, while looking for the Atocha, he lost the 3, his family members, his friend, and those 2 other cameramen.
All in
There
pursuit.
was 5 people that died in pursuit to find the Atocha, and there was 5 people that survived the wreck of the Atocha in 1622. So did the Atocha take the 5 lives that it was owed before it gave up its treasure?
Yeah, that's some fascinating shit, man. That's crazy, though. Like, there's still treasure out there. Anyone who's aspiring to do this, get after you, man. RattlesnakeDre is here. He wants to show you what's up. I mean, living proof of preservation, literally sitting across from us right here. And you shadowboxed this beautiful piece of art for us.
Right.
And it means so much to us, the fact that you're here in the first place, telling us these stories, putting it out there into the universe. That way it's completely digitized and logged and cataloged forever. These aren't going to go with you. These aren't going to go with our great grandpas. You know, like, they're here forever. As long as there is data to be mined on the internet.
Obviously, these things are outliving us, right?
Yeah.
Because even in these objects that are sitting on this table right now, there's still life in them because they've been resurrected, and now the story can be told through them.
And that's just
incredible.
one little piece of whatever that little
Such a
story is.
minute, you know, even with everything in your relic room, you know, that's such a minute part of it when you look at the whole spectrum of everything going on, and that's pretty incredible. But also, I feel like it's a calling. Not everybody's doing what you're doing, man. No. You know, so you know, when you first came on the show and I asked you why do this, and you actually love treasure hunting. You like putting a metal detector in your hand just as much as Tyler likes putting a guitar in his hand or me putting a fishing rod in mine, and that's what it's all about. Tyler said it best: if you're going to do something, be the best you can at it. Go all the way. And I dig your jib, man. I dig the cut of your jib.
Fucking right, dude.
That's
Absolutely.
it. The story started. I wanted to get a metal detector and find gold and silver, and then realized that the stories you pull out of the ground are worth a lot more.
Does it make a difference what metal detector you have?
No. It's kind of like a guitar. I mean, if you buy a guitar from Walmart, you know.
You could expect a certain quality out
Right,
of it.
but if you buy a good one, but this too, just because some random guy goes and buys a Stratocaster or whatever, he's not gonna he's not gonna be able to find shit tomorrow. Like, it takes dedication, and I think it's like 10. If you invest 10,000 hours into something, you become a professional.
Yeah, that's right. And the will and the skill issues is where it separates from your novice to your expert. And that's what it is, man.
Well, it also comes down to fine-tuning the expectancies of your life, right? So you can only put so many hours toward treasure hunting. You can only put so many hours toward family, because you have to make time for everything else so that you have balance.
Right.
A lot of people lose sight of balance, man, and it's very hard to do. We know that. You know, it's something that is hard for me even now, because we're working 2 full-time jobs. I got a family, rebuilding a bus, selling a house. I understand the grind, man. I do. But just the fact that you made time just to come in here, man, it just means so much to me, especially since you were our first guest.
Yeah, man.
You were our first
guest. You popped our DSR cherry, and we loved it.
I'm so glad I'm that person.
Man.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoy the gift I gave you.
Absolutely.
If,
I love it.
If you want to see some more treasure hunting adventures, my Facebook is full. I got Instagram. I'm now on TikTok for some reason. And
yeah, man, let everyone know where to find you.
Yeah, you can go find me on YouTube. I have a lot of good stuff on YouTube. But if you go on my Facebook, I have a bunch of little short videos and If you want to follow me there, follow me on everything. Everything's all linked together. So
tell this camera, that camera, right here, what you got going on in your life. This isn't Hot Ones, but, you know, it is Hot Ones.
Well, I'd like to say, like I always say, if you want to become rich and wealthy, go get a good job and go to work every day. But if you want to have some great adventures and have great stories, go get a metal detector and get lost in the woods.
Fucking right, man. Love you, Rattlesnake.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
And now for the song inspired by RattlesnakeDre.
It calls to him like tiny embers spread across time, a place unknown that can't be forgotten, an urgent desire that can only be quenched with a wave of his wand.
The spirits take him far and wide to tell the stories of their lives. The man, the myth, the legend, RattlesnakeDre. The spirits take him far and wide to tell the stories of their lives. The man, the myth, the legend, RattlesnakeDre.
In this paradox of paradigms that sing through broken pieces of history, a mighty thrust of steel to earth uncovers souls owned by long lost mysteries. There can only be one. The man, the myth, the legend.
Thank you for listening to the Dank Swamp Rebellion. Tune in Wednesday when the Rebellion interviews director Brandon Stoof of the upcoming movie Dear Kate.